Pete Bercich, analyst for the Vikings Radio Network, into his 18th season. At Pete Bercich via the tweet machine. He joins us now to chat a little football. Pete, Stephon Gilmore, lots of cornerback experience all of a sudden in that cornerback room with Gilmore, Griffin, Byron Murphy Jr., Fabian Moreau. That I would imagine that was a key to the Gilmore signing. What do you think, and good morning?
Good morning. Obviously the guy is very experienced. He's been around for quite some time. Mike Pettin coached him in Buffalo, was with him in Buffalo, and then Flores was with him in New England. So you have a couple guys on the staff that know who he is and what he's about. So that's good. I mean, that's the thing, is bringing him in. Is he going to fit in the mix? But Paul, he's going into year 13. You have Shaq Griffin going into year 8. Murphy's going into 6. Moreau's going into 8. We just got old in the secondary. It's like, it's amazing. It's been completely, outside of a Caleb Evans, it's been completely revamped. I mean, throughout the course of this training camp. And so guessing as to what it's going to look like, your guess is as good as, our guess is as good as anyone's as far as that goes, because you've got a whole new group at room.
Well, let me ask you about that, Pete. And PA was going down a road in terms of what that room looks like now. And I'm just thinking at a base level, a 1-year, $10 million contract tells me that there are expectations there. So let's say Gilmore's healthy. What is the learning curve, the lead-up time from your days as a coach and all of that? Like, get this guy in here. What should we expect early, and how does that process lay out for him as he acclimates himself to the Vikings?
I think it'll be a lot easier for him to get on the field and be productive with Flores than he would be with a Zimmer, right? Because Zimmer had you play zone defense, but you pattern read and your mini package coverages, and there was just a lot of experience and awareness I think he needed to play well in a Zimmer type coverage system. And I with Flores and putting so many guys on the line of scrimmage, it's cat coverage. It's when things get more simple mentally, they usually get much harder physically, right? So I really don't think it's going to take long for Gilmore to understand and be able to, produce in this system. Yeah, you have a couple weeks before the season starts. So he's going to be around for 3 weeks before the first game, so that should be enough time for him to acclimate himself to what we're trying to do defensively.
If you're another one of those corners right now in that room, Pete, are you're just like, well, what the heck, man? If McGlothern trying to make the roster as an undrafted guy, the Jalen Williams types, Nishan Wright, he's already packing his bags potentially. Like these other guys, they know that this is a signal, right?
Oh, no question. Yeah, that's good. You brought in a guy who's going to make the team, right? You brought in a guy who is going to make this team, and he's going to start. So in that respect, you look at when we go nickel for the first time, we're going to have him, Shaq Griffin, and Byron Murphy out there, right? And along with Cam Bynum and probably Harrison Smith and Josh Metellus. Or it's a completely different secondary, completely different. And so it's exciting. I mean, I think it's exciting. We have seen, we've had some woes in the cornerback position, obviously, with drafting. You have to at some point admit it and just go about getting talent. And you got to give them credit to say, hey, you know what? These guys that we've drafted over the last 3, 4, 5 years, they're just not cutting it. We've had much better luck with free agents, and that's the route we're going to go. So we're going to piece this thing together and think about it. How many, the number of new defensive starters that are going to take the field, when we go out to New York and play the Giants. It's going to be crazy. It's like we're going to meet a lot of these guys. It seems like for the first time, right? So getting them to play together, getting them to mesh, getting them to do all those things, it's going to take a couple of weeks. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you gotta say, hey, at least they're willing to go out and spend some money and bring in people if they need them.
So with Gilmore, or a player of his variety, now he's going to be 34 years of age a month from today, and having not been with the team in the off season, this is in no way second guessing like the training staff here, the strength and conditioning staff, or whatever. But how careful do you have to be? No matter, what videos players or agents send you of their client or the individuals working out or doing whatever they're doing in the off season to get ready. If they gave him a 1 in 10, then that means that, at least in my estimation, they feel he's ready to help beginning against the New York Giants. But how much like, tissue type situation or muscular situation at this stage of the man's career and age do you have to be concerned about trying to get him full speed for a game 20 days from today?
Well, yeah, that's a concern. But what is good is, you go back and you look at the last 2 years, right? He had 17 games, 17 starts in Dallas, and then the year before in Indianapolis, he had 16 games and 16 starts. So he's staying healthy, right? He's not a guy that's injury prone, because that's only going to get worse as you get older. The main thing would be, Paul, is has he lost a step, right? Has he finally is he starting to slow down? That could be made up for with experience and some other things, but that's really, I think, the only thing that you worry about, Paul. Has he lost a step from last year? Can he just, all the gray hairs, man, is it going to slow him down? Can he still open it up and cover a guy down the field? We'll find out. So I think that's the biggest, he could play the position, like I said, his history is staying healthy, which is great. That's one thing that I always look at. If you bring in a guy who starts, plays in 8, 9, 10 games and starts 7 or 8, you got a guy that, he's nicked up quite a bit. And as they get older, it gets worse, and usually. But in this case, Gilmore's found a way to keep himself on the field, especially the last 2 years. So, my main concern with him would be, has he lost a step?
Pete Bercich, Vikings radio analyst. You were out in Cleveland. Thanks again for joining PA and enhancing the feast and all the shows out there. The joint practices were cool, but then ultimately they got to play a game. I'm trying to figure out, Jacoby Francis is on our team. Was there anything that popped to you on Saturday specifically?
I think when we sat down with Brian Flores, he had a phrase. He said, he's talking about McGlothern. He's like, McGlothern's put together some good practices. And that's what you want a coach to say about a young guy, is that you're starting to figure it out. You're not good one day, bad the next, because you got to be consistent. So if you put together a few good days, and the guy that has, for me, is Kene Nwangwu. And Kene Nwangwu looks more like a running back now than he ever has, right? I don't know over the last 2 years if he's fully embraced being a running back. He obviously didn't get in there, but in preseasons past, I don't know if he was 100% sold on hey, I'm a running back. No, he's like, no, I'm a return guy. He's really changed that up. So Kene Nwangwu, from that game really stood out, in my opinion. I thought he looked really good.
And in listening to Fan Line, sitting on the bus waiting to go to the airport with Nordo and Ron, they were hitting on Kene Nwangwu quite a bit, and I that it's like, to start the radio show, I laid out an A, B, and C topic, but I mean just that they can be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because just so many things pop up in preseason games. But I like the way you were laying it out during the simulcast, and then the Fan Line show, kind of doubled down on it about just the different way Nwangwu not only was hitting these holes, but he's a strong man. I mean, he may not be the tallest guy, but he's super thick and strong in the upper body. And when he busted a play out, which was heading towards us, we were high atop Cleveland Brown Stadium, trapped in the corner, and it was Wanwu. We were on the side of the field where Tristan Jackson, scored that first touchdown, and Wanwu was coming at us, and he bounced off one guy, and then a guy had a full run at him, and he bounced off that guy before finally going down. And I was like, holy cow. Look, I mean, This is preseason. All right, these are 2s and 3s, but they're still full speed, and they're hitting, and they couldn't get him down. But I can't say I've ever seen that.
There's one thing that, if you're going to look at a Cleveland team, that's one thing that they're going to do. And we saw that 2 days in a row, is they're physical. Right? They weren't tackling to the ground in practice, but they were setting up, and, they're a good tackling team. Schwartz has a very physical defense. And what stood out to me with Wanmu is when he was, on the outside runs. And, I think Rouse and Juergens, I think Rouse is a guy that has impressed me in his run blocking quite a bit. But you get Rouse out on the edge, kicking guys out. And then the main thing is just Wanmu getting his shoulders square once he gets back to the line of scrimmage, even if he's running an outside play. And because of that, he's able to cut, he's able to keep his feet. And, he looks a lot stronger, right? Guys are hitting him in the legs, and he's bouncing off them. Kane has put 2 weeks of, I think, good games together. I think Tristan Jackson has done that. Jalen Naylor has done that. Brandon Powell continues to show up. We know what he can do. So I like the group that we have with the figuring out a number 3 wide receiver. We don't have a KJ Osborne at number 3, a guy who's done it and he's got that experience. But I think between Powell, Naylor, Tristan Jackson, and Sherfield, we're going to find one of those guys to absolutely be the number 3 wide receiver.
The starting linebackers with Cashman and Ivan Pace, we've talked about them many times. But whether it's Brian Asamoah, it's Grugier Hill, some of these other guys on the backup, is depth kind of sneakily? Is that a conversation piece for the Vikings right now, figuring out what's next behind Pace and Cashman?
Here's the thing though, that you have to. I mean, I think that is something that is a concern, because I think Cashman and Pace. How about Ivan Pace? Right, he's undrafted rookie free agent a year ago, played in all preseason games the whole time last year, and then he doesn't get to play this year. And Flores was saying he was asking to play, he wanted to play. Right, so I mean that's an unbelievable establishment of a career in 1 year, to go from being an undrafted free agent and, preseason games, that's your Super Bowl, to go into being part of a defense and the needed part where you're not playing in preseason games. But Asamoah and Grugier Hill, they're good options. I would have to think that if you needed a replacement for those two, you can start looking to a Josh Metellus to play a little bit, really, of linebacker and get away with it. Or one of the other safeties, because you have, Theo Jackson's more of a cover guy, I think. But, the depth at the linebacker position is a little bit of a concern right now.
To the interior,
if that's the concern, depth at a position, at the linebacker position, I'll take it.
To the interior of the line, this Levi Drake Rodriguez cat has really impressed me through 2 games, Pete. As a 7th rounder, an energy bug, a spark plug, whatever you want to say about him. He's getting these ample opportunities, of course, behind Harrison Phillips, who's not going to play much of these preseason games. And then Tillery, we saw him a little bit, I think, in the first game, but not this time around. What do you like, or what do you see from Levi Drake Rodriguez?
He's a smaller, more compact, quick twitch. I think he's more suited for interior pass rush than he is, defending the run. You need to have 5 or 6 guys. And I think that our front is the season that Jerry Tillery has is going to be key for this unit. Tillery looked so good like 2 days against Cleveland. And we all, everybody knows that he's an unbelievable talent. He's 300 pounds and he doesn't look it. He wears 300 pounds better than almost anybody I'd ever seen. Excuse me, but he hasn't quite figured it out. If he can figure it out and give this defensive front some snaps this year, he could be a huge difference maker with this group. So between Tillery and Bullard, the other guy that we saw a lot of on the interior defensive line and third down situations is Jihad Ward. So expect Jihad Ward to make this team, and he'll be a physical outside linebacker. But on third down situations, he'll be in the interior a lot. The other guy, we haven't seen much in the preseason games, but apparently he's had an unbelievable camp, is Pat Jones. So yeah, Pat Jones, our third down, the personnel we could put up front on the field on third down is going to be you're going to be able to pull from a lot of different areas. It's just the base first and second down, stopping the run. As Jaquel and Roy come around enough, we'll see. Part of that, and I think Levi Drake Rodriguez is as well.
Peter?
Yeah.
How about Flores telling us Friday that his safety room, his safety group, reminds him of a Super Bowl winning room he had in New England with Patrick Chung, Devin McCourty, Duron Harmon, and some others. That's something I'm not going to forget. No,
and the thing that the way he said it, he said that finally one day in meetings he kind of looked around the room and said, "All you guys can play in this league 10 years." Right? And you look at the group now with Cam Bynum, Theo Jackson. Harry's in year 13, obviously, but Metellus going into year 5. Jay Ward's still young. That's a huge compliment to that group, right? Because that's as good of a safety meeting room as you're going to find, the one that he had in New England. So that was very high praise for that group. I think they've got a good mix of young and old. And, again, Cam Bynum, if he can catch the balls, if he would have caught all the balls that hit him in the hands last year, he would have had 7 interceptions. So Cam Bynum, I'm telling you, if he puts it all together, he could be a Pro Bowl defender for the Vikings. In this system with how it works, I think he could really do that.
Pete Bercich, in-booth analyst for the Vikings Radio Network, at Pete Bercich for hardcore football conversation via Twitter. Offense, is Jalen Nailor going to play a bunch in regular season games? And the reason I ask is, it's O'Connell told me game day before I taped the pregame interview you hear on the Vikings Radio Network and KFAN right in front of games that we're going to feature Nailor today. And he said the same thing into the Vegas game. All right, these are preseason games. And you got Jefferson, you have Addison, depending on A, the ankle, and B, the off-field thing. But then after that, Brandon Powell and Trent Sherfield Sr. and so on. So are you envisioning that Jalen Nailor is going? Well, he's going to play the most that he's ever played in his career, I believe. But regular season wise, what are we getting into here with 83?
I think that if Addison is not available, he'll be wide receiver too, because of his physical abilities, because of his speed. Right? We need. This is a quarterback passing heavy offense, and we got to have athletes, and we've got to have out there on the edges. And so, as good as Tristan Jackson has looked, Nailor is is a much more of an athlete. He's more of an athlete than Brandon Powell. So I think of those three that you're looking at, even Sherfield, he gives you the most speed, the most ability to get deep, take the top off of defense. He's a bigger, quote unquote, I think, threat for a defensive backfield. So yeah, right now he is definitely number 3, and I would expect him to be number 2 if for some reason Addison can't go.
Right.
So I think he's solidified himself that again. We've loved Jalen Naylor. He's looked good in the past. He's caught fake punts. He caught a touchdown against the Bears. It's just a matter of him staying healthy. And when we sat down and talked with him, he's put on some weight. He's getting older, so hopefully, he's able to stay healthy and stay on the field.
Speaking of health, we've had, it feels like at one point we had 15 tight ends on the roster here through camp and such, Pete. And Robert Tunyon's a guy that PA's talked about him several times. Like, I just want to see what that looks like, right? The athleticism and all that.
Man, in OTAs, it's like when I saw him run, I'm like, damn, who knew Robert Tunyon was that fast? And he's athletic with the way he goes after passes. And you saw some of it in training camp. And I'm with Nordo, man. I just, continue, please. I just want to watch him play.
Yeah, I want to see what that looks like. But in lieu of Hawkinson being available, am I overanalyzing it in terms of how these guys are going to shape out? It's just you have faith in Tunyon. You're going to keep that back healthy into the season. You got Oliver. You got Munt. There's a Nick Muse conversation to be had, I suppose. But last year they kept 4 into the season, and I just want to know who we're going to be using against the Giants.
Very, very good question. Hopefully Tunyon can be healthy, by that time. But if not, we're looking at Oliver, Munt, and Nick Muse. And, Josh Oliver has been he's been getting better every single year in the passing game. We know he can run block. He showed up in the red zone against Cleveland in the practices a couple times. So, losing Hawkinson is still a huge loss, and we're going to be without him for at least the beginning of the season. And you hope that Tunyon can just be healthy the beginning of the year and kind of fill that void, give you some speed at the tight end position. So I would not be surprised if you see Tunyon and Oliver, going into the season, and then Munt and Muse are the backups. And then once TJ comes back, you're going to have to figure out what you want to do: keep 5 or send somebody packing.
You are fantastic, my friend. Great calling the game with you from Cleveland, and I will see you later in the week for Philadelphia. Okay, Pete?
Sounds good, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you. See you. When we return at before News du Nord, as I might as well unfurl this 25 that I put together with the Vikings offense, just to jog my mind and just mentally stay on top of this to see if we can nail this bad boy. Alec Lewis of The Athletic and theathletic.com joins 9 to noon here at the TCO radio studio about 30 minutes from now. And after that, former NFL players Chris Long and Bo Allen. They're going to be at the TCO radio studio, and they are here to do a podcast, the Green Light podcast, and they're going to be nice enough to stop by and spend 10, 15 minutes with 9 to noon. That takes place about an hour and 10 minutes from now. Max Fuller produces at KFAN. Nordo produces on site, and I'm Paul Allen. Into the second half of the presentation when we return to KFAN.
Your Lynx are back in action this Wednesday night as they take on the Las Vegas Aces. Catch this game right here on these very airways, KFAN, or anywhere you go with the free iHeartRadio app.
Offense for the Minnesota Vikings up to the life changer against the New York Giants, a game against New York and New Jersey at MetLife Stadium. That is 20 days from today, 3 weeks from yesterday, and 1 month from today, our new corner, Stephon Gilmore, turns 34 years of age. Welcome back to 9 to noon from the Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center TCO studios. It's Paul Allen, Nordo by my side, Max Fuller producing at FM 100.3 KFAN, adjacent to Erotic City. Copyright Prince Rogers Nelson. Offensively speaking, I haven't thought about the numbers game that potentially will lead us to hopefully bona fide accuracy with the 25 they'll keep offensively or defensively. Do they go 26 on the offense, 26 on the defense, and 24 on the other side? It's fun putting those numbers together. As the problem with this is that when you miss one, you really miss two. So therefore, we of course we're trying to throw no hitters here, but that ain't going to happen. I think, in doing this, I think I nailed it maybe one time in like 17 or 18 tries at it. But it's a fun exercise to get ready for a preseason game and just think about people's lots in life, like Tristan Jackson. All right, very nice guy, very affable guy. It can be said he's Justin Jefferson's best friend. They're very, very close, and he's a wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Jackson started on the practice squad for the LA Rams with Kevin O'Connell. All right, so Kevin's familiar with him, and familiarity at times can breed contempt. It also can breed paychecks all throughout all work walks of life, and that's no different in the National Football League. So KOC gets here, Kevin O'Connell gets here, and Tristan Jackson's on the practice squad. Last year, they needed to elevate Jackson, and they needed a receiver, and they elevated him. And in the victory, the Dobbs game against the Atlanta Falcons, on one of those unbelievable plays by Joshua Dobbs, they closed with a 2-point conversion to Tristan Jackson, front right of the end zone, and it was kind of a tough play. And he's tall, but he's not super fast, but his route running has improved exponentially from what I've been told. And the wide receiver situation and or room here just has to be some form of a conundrum for them. Jefferson, Addison, Powell, Naylor, Sherfield. I don't see any way any of those five are not making the team. So you got those five, and what do you do with Jackson? I mean, again, not super fast, but has really improved with his work off the line. And like I said, I'm hearing his route running has dramatically improved. He's just more comfortable with it. So as I was crafting that, I'm like, all right, damn it, let's just do it for the offense and what number I come up to. So I mentioned it earlier. I'm giving the offensive line 9. And if Reisner is healthy, or when Dalton Reisner is healthy, quite honestly, I think this is a cinch. Darisaw, Brandell, Bradbury, Ingram, O'Neal, Rouse, Juergens, Quessenberry, and Reisner. So that 9 makes sense to me. I don't think I'm missing anybody. Wide receiver, I'm going to keep 6. I'm going to keep 6 with Tristan Jackson, and Jayshon Jones goes to the practice squad, and they happen to be very high on him. Man, they're Kwesi and staff are really doing good work with undrafted players and raising them on the practice squad. I think Jayshon Jones is going to be the next one that everybody likes, but we have to wait. So predicated on keeping 6 wide receivers, and I'm not married to that, but if they keep 6, I'm at 15. Tight ends. Here's where we are now. Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, N'Keal Harry, and Nick Muse. Okay, that's where we are now. Now, I'm not married to N'Keal Harry being on the active roster, but he keeps finding his way onto active rosters, and some would say under the cover of darkness. N'Keal Harry's gifted. I mean, you're not a first-round pick in the National Football League, even as a wide receiver, if you do not have gifts that at times can be otherworldly. Well, he built himself up, and they've moved him to tight end. Now, I have N'Keal Harry in that 4 because, until we see Robert Tonyan do something that would indicate he absolutely should be on the active roster, it's tough to put him in there. Hawkinson's still recovering, from the multiple injuries last year. So it's definitely not 5. I think it'll stick at 4. And I'm just curious to see when Robert Tonyan begins practicing, with that back and hopefully starts playing. Because if and or when Robert Tonyan begins practicing, he's in. And somebody takes an L. What do you think of that so far?
Well, I understand the logic between Tunyon. I drew up the 4 with Tunyon instead of Harry, only because of the fact that, and Ron Johnson has gotten this into my head, talking about the transition, playing with more weight, as athletic and as gifted as N'Keal Harry has been. Everything just, according to Ron, looks really slow right now because there are some differences in terms of how he has to operate. Versus, of course, his days as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And he, frankly, wasn't impressed with what he saw from Harry in the Cleveland game.
No.
And so I'm not mad at because you either have a guy.
Tunyon's in if he's healthy.
You can't get a guy on the freaking field. And then the guy that's on the field is making a position change. And the team had faith in him to keep him around last year. And they're frankly, we're watching a situation. The coaches are doing whatever they can. They're saying, N'Keal, we love you, and we do know you have gifts. You just have to, and let's try this. And I think that the staff is doing and has done as much as they can to find a spot to make this work with him.
Right.
If it was, so I'm open to the idea maybe it's Tunyon if he's healthy, and then N'Keal.
Yeah.
I think Nick Muse has a massive uphill battle, and maybe is only part of this conversation because Hawkinson's hurt. So I get where you're going with that. I just had it flipped where it was Tunyon instead of Muse.
I would flip Muse and Harry. So it's if and or when Tunyon is healthy, he's on the team, and I have to believe it has to be relatively close.
With you,
I would flip Muse and Harry, but nevertheless, that final tight end probably will be inactive on game days.
I'm interested though because you kept 9 linemen, you're keeping 6 receivers and 4 tight ends.
Yep.
There's a position group here that's taken potentially 1 less, PA.
Yeah, so we're at 19, which gets us to quarterback, and Darnold and Mullins go 1-2. What do you do after that? I mean, again, if there's a market for Kellen Mond, there's a market for Jaron Hall. So if you put Jaron Hall on the practice squad, I believe that there is a chance, certainly maybe a good chance, that he ends up with another team. If that's the case, are you saddened by it? Is there a quarterback, do they need to carry 3? And the emergency quarterback bit, but the emergency quarterback 54 makes it a 54 on game day. That player is required to go back to the practice squad. It's part of the rules. And if you take that player and Jaron Hall and put him on the practice squad, I think somebody will pick him up and make him their 3.
Yeah.
So for now, I'm at 2 to get me to 21. Running backs, Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, Kene Nwanwu, and CJ Ham. That's all I need. So that would get me to 25. It would get me to 26 if I have Jaron Hall or somebody as that third quarterback. Quite honestly, I don't think the offense is that hard to do. The defense on the other side, that's markedly trickier.
I think the defense is a rat's nest, but offensively, the only
rat's nest. What do you mean?
Well, I just mean there's a lot of names that we're looking at.
Oh, I see. Not like Ratty.
No.
Oh, I got you.
I'm actually quite bullish, and I think signing Gilmore tells you a story that they're very bullish on the front 7.
Right.
And if they can solidify things on the outside, I think things could look pretty good for the Purple. But here's the sticking point for me, and this is all. I had Tristan Jackson ahead of Sherfield. Just based off of some of the things you were talking about and how good he's been, and the route running's improved.
Sherfield Senior's a cinch.
And so if he is a cinch, then Jackson, I guess Jackson would be on the outside looking in if you keep 5 like you did a year ago.
Who's the extra one you keep? The quarterback?
Well, and so at 25, I'm thinking Hall makes the team.
Right.
Because of, and is there an element of this where leaving 2, he would go on the practice squad and be plucked? I agree with you there. So is it Matt Corral? Matt Corral enters the fold here. I don't believe to make the team at all. Agreed. I believe, if anything, he's a camp arm plus. Hey, this is a guy that's done some things. What was it? UFL, XFL. He's kind of had to navigate, taking the circuitous route, no doubt about it.
Birmingham Stallions, though.
And you can't argue with that. Go Birmingham. But he's a camp arm / practice squad candidate immediately. And so Jaron Hall hasn't done a lot.
They kept. We have plenty of time to discuss this, but yeah, I'm with you. And he was QB3 on the active roster last year because they drafted him. And now with what they've seen behind the scenes with Jaron Hall, I think it's accurate and fair to share that he's fantastic in the room. He picks up things super quickly, processes it very quickly. Unlike some starters in the NFL, Hall has a swivel. But the thing is, what does he do with the swivel, and how quick can it be executed when the metaphorical bullets are coming at you quickly? Yeah. Now, he's no longer a rookie. He's no longer a fifth-round pick. There are past performances on him. So maybe they think, hey, we're going to put him there. If you take him, you take him. We can find that in a lot of different places. Because I think they're going to need that spot.
No, they need that guy totally, because
they're going to need that one spot somewhere on this team for an extra whatever. It could be wide receiver.
And again, the combination of what he's shown on the field, plus the utter lack, I was talking about special teams earlier. There's no utility in Jaron Hall.
Yeah.
If you're keeping Jaron Hall on the team right now, it is only in an emergency situation.
That's a very good point.
So whether it's the sixth receiver, in my case, I had picked Jackson ahead of Sherfield, but I'm Sherfield and you keep Jackson. Both of them being on the team is fun for me because both of them will provide utility in other aspects. Mm-hmm. The value that they bring to the team, save for that emergency situation, is immense.
Yep.
And that spot is going to come at a premium, especially once we start trying to figure out this defense.
Yeah.
And some of the names that are popping, names we will be surprised by, and all of that drills it down to the final roster.
Might hit on that tomorrow. News du Nord is around the corner. This is KFAN.
Nothing defines Minnesota quite like its 10,000 lakes, and we got to keep them beautiful, y'all. Post on social media using the hashtag #ChooseChill to help Coors Light, KFAN, and Conservation's Minnesota protect the lakes, rivers, and waters we love.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. Alec Lewis is going to be in studio here with us, Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center in Eagan. That's at the top of the hour. But right now, let's do just a little News du Nord. And News du Nord is always brought to you by the great people at The Casino. Not a casino, The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. It's poker, it's blackjack, it's table games. You're feeling the felt all day, every day of the year. And, of course, live racing still in play. Limited race days, I believe, continue on sometime through mid-September. So there's still a chance to get out there and enjoy the ponies, watch, wager, and win. And you can get all of the intel on that. Just go to CanterburyPark.com. And we'll start with the Minnesota Twins. They took 3 of 4 at the Rangers, and they had a chance to sweep. If anybody out there, you're watching this game yesterday, you're up 4-0, you're feeling the sweep. And maybe you're a hardcore baseball fan to the degree that you're watching how Cleveland and the Brew Crew are doing things up in Milwaukee. But you're up 4-0, and then everything falls apart. Stop me if you've heard this before. They allow 5 in the 7th by the Rangers. Then you get the tying run in the 9th, only for Duran to give it up in the 10th. So close to a sweep. In the end, though, they do take 3 of 4 from Texas. You do dig that overall. But Cleveland swept by the Brewers. You had a chance to get within 1 game. You're still just down 2, so there's still hope. Nobody freak out here, but an opportunity to get so close as with less than 40 games now, I believe. Things are getting thick in the AL Central. The Minnesota Twins still firmly in wild card grasp at this point, 2 back from the Cleveland Guardians, but from a wild card perspective, they are very much in the thick of it. So Minnesota Twins, they have 9 more against the NL, and it's going to be, they're at the Dads starting tonight. Let's go Zebby. I think Zebby Matthews is on the mound this evening for a late one, 8:40 first pitch. And then they're hosting the Cards and Braves. Go Twins as they get closer to Major League Baseball playoffs.
The Padre series begins today, so it's at Texas. Then you wheel out there and play. You got Machado and no Tatis. I think he's out for the year. But the Padres got themselves real hot and took a fat L yesterday to some no-name pitcher for the Rockies at Coors Field. So this I would expect a fair amount of low-scoring games out there against the Padres, and it's unfortunate the way things went yesterday. But here we come. You know, we have a month and a half left in this thing, and the stretch run when you have a chance to make the postseason, that could be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Final bit for you here, PA. News du Nord. Just following, our guy's hurt, and we're looking forward to J.J. McCarthy in 2025. We just want him to be healthy. But following these other first-round QBs, I don't know if you saw this, the Falcons didn't play Michael Penix in the second game.
Oh, wow.
And it sounded like because they've seen enough.
Right.
So if Kirk's your guy...
Well, Mullins, I don't think would have played. He might have played. If he had played, he would have played a lot less.
Sure.
At Cleveland, that's why he didn't play against the Raiders. Obviously, he's a veteran, and Penix is not.
And that's where I was going with it. Is I'm just thinking, you're gonna put him on ice, and Kirk's the guy. So why wouldn't you take these advantage and get some reps under his belt?
I don't know. I don't follow them closely enough. But what I do follow with them is with Judon and Simmons. They're shipping to their version of all in, recognizing it's a winnable division. That they're probably going to win the division, which gets you a home playoff game. They're feeling good about the advancing off the Achilles with Cousins, and they're puffing out their chests a little bit down Atlanta way with some of these signings. So we'll see. So
with Stephon Gilmore signs the 1 year $10 million deal. You mentioned somebody asked you about the air of desperation around it, and that just the state of this room needed a wily veteran to roll in here. Is that similar with the Judon and Simmons? I mean, is it just are you balancing semantics, or is it just the perception of things where the Judon thing was almost initiated? It sounded there was a fight or a verbal argument he had with Gerard Mayo in New England, and then a few days later it's a third-round pick flipped for him. He's in Atlanta.
Oh wow!
But Simmons now with the 1 year $8 million bid.
Yeah.
Is it just semantics, like desperation versus going all in?
Great question. I'd have to look at their roster to see what they were doing at safety. Simmons fell off a little bit last year, but he still can play. And what was interesting with the Judon move is, if you believe reports from and they're from respected scribes, is the Bears also offered the Falcons a third-round pick, and the New England Patriots opted to take Atlanta's. Because they think Atlanta is going to have a worse record than the Chicago Bears, and that it potentially would be a better pick. I'm not kidding you. And I got caught up on Hard Knocks too with the Chicago Bears on HBO. Episode 2, very, very entertaining. That plus much more, including some Vikings thoughts with Alec Lewis from The Athletic when 9 to noon continues on KFAN.